Hello, everyone. My name is Darren, and I am the host of the Touch MBA podcast. This week, I brought on Anne-Marie and Colleen from the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management full-time MBA program, and I did something a little bit different with this episode than with other school interviews. I really focused in on the admissions process and scholarships. We went through all of the Frankfurt School MBA program's criteria, what they need, their exact admissions process, and I hope that this episode gives you a really comprehensive look into what the Frankfurt School MBA program is looking for and how you can give yourself the best chance of getting in and putting forth your strongest application. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember that at touchmba.com, we offer free school selection help. We specialize in helping MBA applicants who are looking at international MBA programs and trying to find the best fit. So if you need help with that and want to get some pointers on how you can strengthen your profile, go head over to touchmba.com and you can get some free help over there. So let's get straight to my conversation with Anne-Marie and Colleen from the Frankfurt School. Here we go. I'd like to welcome and introduce Colleen McLister, who's the admissions manager of MBA programs at the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management, as well as Anne-Marie Stephenson, who is the senior recruitment manager of MBA programs. So Colleen and Anne-Marie, thank you so much for joining me on this interview.
Thank you for having us. It's great to talk to you.
Could you first tell me about your responsibilities at the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management?
As the senior recruitment manager, I mainly look after the full-time MBA. So I'm the first point of contact for a lot of our students that are looking at studying the full-time MBA program. Now, that could be the case that I'm meeting them at international fairs, maybe on online sessions or one-to-one consultations. If they have any kind of questions, challenges, or anything around the MBA program, I can speak to them and hopefully alleviate a lot of the doubts that they may have before applying. So as well as that, I also look after the marketing of the program. That is everything from the advertising to promote the program and the curriculum. And then also it could be involvement with social media, anything around really just visibly getting the full-time MBA at Frankfurt School out there, especially to our international potential students that are coming through.
And Colleen?
And yeah, just to piggyback off of Anne-Marie. So I'm the first contact point after applicants would be submitting their application. So once they've gone through the consultation process with our recruiters, ideally, and then I'm more of the technical side. So checking all required documents that have been uploaded to their application. And then I guide those candidates through the admissions process. So starting either with the English test, the GMAT, GRE, or our business test, as well as the interview. And then if they are admitted, issuing the contracts to the candidate. If they are also admitted, then I would be issuing their deposit invoices and also assisting with the initial accommodations requests. And then I also attend on-campus events as well as recruitment fairs alongside our recruiters throughout the entire recruitment cycle.
Crystal clear. Great. So before we really dive into the admission side of things, because I think that's what we're here for, I'd just like to ask one question, since you both have seen so many cohorts and international students pass through your full-time MBA at the Frankfurt School. I'm wondering, what do you wish more applicants knew about the MBA program there that might not be so obvious from the website or from the brochure?
I would say number one, it's not necessarily that it's not obvious on the website. I think it's normally when I'm having these initial conversations at recruitment fairs, they see Frankfurt School, it's Germany, and they think, oh, okay, maybe it's not for me because I need German to be able to do this program. And so when they start speaking to me and when they hear the accent start off with, and I'm like, nope, the program is 100% taught in English. There is kind of like oh, okay, this could be a really good option for me. Also, the fact that we have quite a strong careers focus. We want to be supporting our students all the way through the whole process in terms of looking at their careers once they're finished. So it's not just about learning and the curriculum of the MBA. It's more about how do we support our students after they've finished their MBA and they graduate and they go into the working environment again, and how can they use the tools that they are already learning on the MBA program to really support them when they're looking at their career goals. Other areas that I definitely in consultations when we're talking about sort of obviously the tuitions and scholarships and things like that, students that are not often aware that after working in Germany for a year, you can actually claim back some of your tuition for your MBA program and all of the associated kind of costs with that as well. So that again is one of those kind of moments of, oh, okay, I'm actually going to be able to get some money back from my tuitions after I've worked a year. So Germany is actually giving me added, not just helping me to get my MBA and my career, giving me an added refund in terms of like my tax parts. So I think that's also something that students often don't know. And yeah, also the work finders visa. So after a student is finished their MBA program, they can stay for up to 18 months on a work finders visa to help them find the job that they're looking for within Germany after they finish their MBA.
Those are three really amazing things that I didn't know as well. About the tax refund, like roughly how much is that?
It can vary. I mean, to be honest, I can't give you a set amount because it really does depend on each individual's sort of tax returns and what they're earning, etc. But anecdotally, when I've spoken to students, they've claimed anything between 30 and 45% back. So it is a large amounts that they are getting.
I had no idea about that. I think that's the first time I've ever heard about something like that, in fact. And I've done over 200 podcast interviews with different business schools. So that's really amazing. Colleen, is there anything else you wanted to add?
So kind of from a admissions perspective, I see the overall class profile once they've started. So we look more on the data and numbers side. So what I think is really interesting is there's such diversity in the program sector, as well as the industries and the nationality and the gender for women. It's above average for Frankfurt School. So I think that's definitely something important, is we are also bringing women into the MBA program and portfolio. So yeah, typically you can see all of those statistics on the careers website. They try to keep those up to date for each intake as well.
It's also reflected in Frankfurt City itself, because Frankfurt City has over 180 nationalities in the city. And Frankfurt School, and this is just with all of the different degrees, we have over 100 nationalities there too. So we are very diverse on a larger level when you're looking at Frankfurt as a city. Then you come to Frankfurt School campus, and then our MBA programs as well.
I have to ask one more question here. So as you said, the program is 100% taught in English. You have people from all over the world coming to the program, to a very international and diverse city. I believe about 90% of your graduates actually end up working in Germany as well. I mean, how much German do they need to know to succeed during their job search?
German is very much part of our curriculum. Students that don't have German knowledge, and I would say, again, probably about 75 to 80% of our students embarking on the full-time MBA program don't speak German. So it is important, because it isn't to say that you can't get a job in Germany speaking English. There are jobs out there. But it's more with our MBA students, they're looking for specific jobs. They're looking at specific career entry points. And so with those students, we want to give them the best opportunities to find the jobs that they're looking for once they finish their MBA. So we do really sort of put that as a high importance that they should learn German. I think what we try to communicate is that to actually do the program, you don't need to speak German. As we said, it's 100% taught in English. But for you to look at your career prospects and to give yourselves the best opportunities to get the roles that you're looking for, German is important. So we do place it on a high priority. Our students start off with the first 2 weeks of very intensive German classes. And then throughout the entire program, they're learning German. And also what's great is that after students finish the MBA program, they can still come back to Frankfurt School and continue learning German. And there's always opportunities for them to be networking and using their German language skills as well.
And I also think it's such an added benefit as an expat in Germany and just in Europe in general to integrate yourself into the country, not only just for business or for job progression, but also just to feel as a member of the society, right? Whenever you're running your errands or you're just doing your day-to-day business, I think take advantage of that during the studies because it is a part of the course. So why not kickstart that language learning from the beginning? It's only going to benefit you if the students do plan to stay, ideally after they graduate with their MBA.
We're speaking from also being an expat as well. When you come in and it's like you don't know any of the language, and the more that you learn, the more of the community that opens up to you. And it's great to even see yourself how easy it is to integrate and how nice it is to get to know people, get to know the environment that you're in, the more you're learning the language.
So let's talk about your admissions process, right? Let's start with the big question about what are the key criteria for submitting an application to the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management MBA program?
So we have two major key criteria. The one, having a degree. So you need to have a first degree in order to qualify to do the MBA. And then we're also looking for work experience. So ideally, we look for students that have at least 3 years work experience. And that 3 years is counted at the time in which you'd start the program. So often I speak to students in consultations and they're like, oh, I've only got 2.5 years. So does that mean I'm not going to be able to apply? It's not, because at the time when they're speaking to me, they've got 2.5 years, but obviously, depending on when they speak to me, most of the time they've already got their 3 years. So those, what I would say, is the top two criteria.
Yeah, that would definitely be the top criteria. Of course, in terms of what we're looking for in the actual application, we would need to see your work experience reflected in your CV. And then, of course, the transcript of records from that degree. So whether that be your bachelor's degree, some of our students also have completed a master's as well. So both the degree as well as the transcript of record would be needed to be uploaded. And then also the GMAT or GRE score or our business tests. So those would be 3 criteria that would need to be completed either before they submit the application or after they submit it. I would send them a test link to our internal business test.
We always like to make them aware that they can submit their application without their test, both the GMAT, GRE or business test, and without their English test. We also do offer waivers as well. And those waivers are for students that, obviously from English-speaking countries, they have an automatic waiver. Those students that have worked for 1 year or more using English, or if they've studied for 1 year or more, they can also get a waiver as well.
And this can be selected during the application process. So there's a drop down where they can either upload a document with one of those test scores, or they can select that they're eligible for a waiver and then upload that waiver document to their application. And then also the letters of reference. So these would need to be 2 professional letters of reference. They don't have to submit that as well before they submit their application. They can just put a placeholder and upload this before they're admitted to the program.
One question about the 3 years of full-time work experience requirement. What if someone is working in a co-op or interning while they're in college or in graduate school? Does that count as experience?
So internships doesn't, because it needs to be paid work experience. And we often have students sort of coming to us and saying, okay, my experience isn't in the business field. We tend to look at CVs. So we take a holistic approach to applications. So at that stage, I would often say, have a consultation with me. I want to learn a little bit more about your career, what your goals are. really have a look at their work experience as well. So it isn't a case that just because they've worked in a supermarket, for example, that we're automatically going to say absolutely no. We want to learn a little bit more about the student. I think that it's always very difficult to make a decision based on what you see on paper. I think we really want to hear from the student. And if we get the sense that that student is really, enthusiastic, passionate about wanting to do an MBA, about wanting to further their career, then of course we would always consider that student.
Right. And to be clear, you're willing to meet applicants before they apply?
Yes.
For these calls?
I actually recommend it
Yes.
because we have many CVs that come through. So students can submit their CV to have a CV check with me, or they can have their LinkedIn profile checked by me. You can also do an eligibility test on our website. But sometimes students have other experiences, or there may be a situation where we've had some students that have done a degree later on in life. So they've had quite a number of years work experience, and then they've done a degree. Now, if they were to submit that on an eligibility checker, it would automatically be rejected, because you need to do your bachelor's first, and then it needs to be 3 years post-degree work experience. So in that case, we would want to be speaking to the student to understand a little bit about their background, because the chances are we may look at, okay, that experience is relevant experience. They have been in the working environment for quite some time. We understand the reasons why they did their degree at a later date. So it's really about understanding each and every individual student. That's one of the reasons why we do keep our cohorts quite small, because of the fact that we want to know each of our students. And we work with our students from day one, when they first submit their CVs and get in contact with me, right the way through to when I pass those students across to Colleen, who works with them through the pipeline. And we work with them all the way through to when they graduate. And then when they're alumni, they are still invited back into our community. So once a student starts that process, we already start to integrate them into the Frankfurt School community.
Crystal clear. And in terms of a few of those items that you said can be submitted after the applicant submits their application, for example, the letters of reference and the test scores, do they have to be submitted, for example, within a month, or within what time frame?
Exactly. That was something I was going to talk about and dive in a little bit deeper when I talk about the admissions and application process. Ideally, they would need to upload the letter of reference within the first 2 weeks or a month after hearing back from the admissions manager, because we like to, of course, view the entire application on a holistic approach, but we do need those documents before we can make a final decision. And that final decision will be made after test is completed, interview is completed, and all documents are uploaded. So it does kind of hinder them to get an answer. It delays the process a bit. So yes, ideally, after they submit and they hear from the admissions within 1 month, roughly, they would need to upload those documents. But ideally, we would like to have as much complete beforehand as possible, so we don't have to run after and remind applicants of what's missing.
Got it. And so, let's just go there. So I think one way that might be helpful to kind of understand this process is, could you explain to us what happens to an application after someone submits it on your side?
Absolutely. So once an applicant would be submitting their application, they would be hearing from the admissions manager via email, and we would be reminding them of what documents are missing in the email. And then if they have not completed a business test or the GMAT, that would be the first step. If they did complete their GMAT and they uploaded their GMAT results to the application, then I would be inviting them to interview either with a Frankfurt School staff member or a Frankfurt School alumni. Once the test and the interview are both complete, those are kind of our two required steps before we bring the applicant's profile to our admission committee. Then they're discussed at our admission committee. This is typically on average between 4 to 6 weeks after submission, but this of course varies. If they submit during the busy season, they may be hearing back a tad bit later. And then once we discuss their application at the admissions committee, we discuss their admission as well as their scholarship amount that they would be given or granted, if any. Then they would hear back from the admissions manager and they would be receiving their contract if they're admitted. This would again be via email. So that's kind of the steps of from submission until when they hear on their answer.
Could you tell me a little bit more about this business test that your school in particular offers? And just to be clear, you guys also accept the GRE as well, right?
We accept the GRE, the GMAT, or the business test. The business test method is going to be a test that is an internal $100 test. It's from a US company called Business Test Methods. And this is going to be grading the quantitative verbal section. So it's similar in terms of the GMAT. And this is going to be roughly a 2-hour test. The candidates can take 2 practice tests for free, and we give them up to 2 weeks to complete that test. So they have plenty of time to do 2 practice tests and then the final test that gets sent over to the admissions manager. And so it's very convenient. So you don't have to go to a test center, fill out the paperwork. You can do everything online. And that the only difference between the business test method and the GMAT and GRE is you can only submit that test result to Frankfurt School. Whereas the GMAT and GRE, candidates can submit those to multiple business schools. So if a student is really focused on Frankfurt School, ideally, then it's very convenient for them to take this business test.
And your interviews with either faculty, or is it with staff or faculty?
It's with faculty at
It's with
Frankfurt.
faculty.
Yeah, so typically it would either be with a program manager, our academic director, or a lecturer of Frankfurt School. And then in specific cases and during busy season, we would also have some alumni that are so kind to volunteer to also help with the interview process. And I think sometimes it's nice to have an alumni getting their perspective more from the student side, because they can really have a holistic idea and understanding of what the MBA entails. From a student's perspective, I think it's a bit different sometimes than a lecturer or one of the Frankfurt School members.
And how long do those interviews go, and what should applicants expect?
So the interviews typically go for 1 hour. Again, they're online, just convenient because a lot of our applicants are international. And what they can expect during the interview is just an understanding of the why behind their application. So understanding, or what we want to hear is, why are you applying to Frankfurt School and what interests you specifically about our business school compared to other schools? Getting an idea of their overall academic background as well as professional background and their industry that they're currently in, and then what they want to transition and apply their MBA to their future career path post-graduation with their MBA at Frankfurt School. So just getting an understanding really of looking at their professional background and academic background.
Got it. Yes. The admissions committee. Who's in the admissions committee?
So the admissions committee typically consists of the admissions manager, the recruiter, and then the academic director and program manager of the MBA. And we also invite our career services to come because we like to get an idea of how career services can see where these students can be placed after they graduate, because that's a big part of their MBA journey is what do they want to do when they complete their MBA, and do they want to stay in Germany? So we have quite a range of staff members actually that are at the admission committee, but it's nice to get this, again, holistic approach because everyone has a different side and we all know our candidates the best. So
yes.
Yeah.
And for those scholarship decisions, I know you have a number of scholarships. Do applicants need to apply to those separately, or how does that work?
The scholarships is actually part of the application process. So often when I'm having consultations with students, They are trying to decide on which of the scholarships is the best one for them to apply to. Students can actually apply for more than one scholarship, so they can apply for 2 scholarships, but we only actually offer a scholarship from one scholarship pot. So they've got 2 opportunities to apply. As part of that, on the application, they have to write a little bit about their reasonings why they're looking for a scholarship. So we do read all of that. And it's also good if they can put a little bit of information about how they intend to finance their MBA. So that's all part of the finance section of the application.
And then one thing about the scholarships that I think is important and something that a lot of students ask, when do I find out about my scholarship request and do I get an answer on it, right? So again, just tying back to this admissions committee meeting, we discuss all completed applications with that group of the admissions board that I just discussed earlier. We discuss their admissions decision as well as the scholarship decision. So they hear from the admissions manager on their admissions decision and contract, plus if they're granted a scholarship at the same time. So that's typically all kind of in one go that we discuss that at the admission committee. And that is a question we get asked a lot. When do I find out about the scholarship?
Yeah.
I'm sure another question you might get asked about scholarships is, would it help if applicants applied in earlier rounds?
Yeah. So as I was saying, that students, often ask me this question, and I say always apply as early as possible. One, because we have the early bird, and the early bird is a discount that you get off your tuition. So from a financial perspective, it's great for our students. And then in terms of the scholarships, our scholarships, we don't have set times. It's ongoing because our application process is on a rolling basis, and the application and the scholarship is together. When we're actually having those admissions committees, which often happen every month, maybe every 6 weeks, we're also making decisions on scholarships. We want our students to really, when they find out that they've been awarded a place with our MBA programs, for them at that point in time to understand how much they've been awarded, if they've been awarded a scholarship, so that they can really then start to make a decision in terms of their finances. Our students are coming from all over the world, and finances is a big topic. Can I afford my tuition? Can I afford to live in Frankfurt School? What's available to me? And the earlier that they can understand the financial commitments and how we can support them financially, they can then see whether or not they're able to embark on the program. So this is why we want to make sure that we have those early bird discounts, and we want to make sure that we are offering those scholarships right at the very, very beginning. Of course, with the scholarship pots, we have one set of funds that are coming in for our scholarships. So as the later that you apply, the less that's going to be on those scholarship pots. So I would always say, yes, the earlier, the better.
Would either of you have any tips on how applicants can improve their chances of winning scholarship funding?
So firstly, I'd say make sure you choose scholarship that gives you the chance of securing the funds that you need. We have 5 different scholarships. And if you don't know which scholarship's the best one, get in contact with me. Let's have a consultation, and I will definitely support you and give you advice on which ones. So students have the options of choosing 2 scholarships. And with each of those scholarships that you choose, you have to put a little bit of an explanation as to why you're looking for that scholarship. So it really does help as well to ensure that you're filling out the information that talks about how you're looking to fund your MBA program as well. I would say prepare for your interview too, because all of these steps within the full interview process, the application process, is really going to help to add value to when we discuss the scholarship part. How did that person come across in the interviews? Were they motivated? They talked about wanting a scholarship. Can we really see how they would use that scholarship and how it's going to support them in terms of their career? And as I said, fill in that financial section as in depth as you possibly can.
I mean, I have to ask, would someone's sort of academic performance, whether it's on the GMAT or their undergraduate or graduate background, would that help in terms of potential funding?
For one of the scholarships. So we do have a specific high performing scholarship that is available. So that is one of the scholarships that we would look at GMAT, GRE, or the business test results. alongside the rest of the application. So but for that, I would say for students that, of course, have got high GMAT scores and already are aware of what their scores are, I would definitely advise them to consider the high performing scholarship as part of those 2 scholarships that they have the option to do. I'd also say to a student, if you're looking to do a scholarship, apply for both. Because some students that I've spoken to have said, okay, I will just apply for, I've seen there's a women in MBA one, for example, and I'll just apply for that, which is great. And we encourage that. But I would say to them, okay, you have the opportunity to choose 2. I would definitely go for 2.
Yeah.
During the admissions committee, we will review the candidate's profile and look at both of the categories if they choose 2 scholarship options and see which one really best suits them. So I think that it doesn't hurt because you do have that multiple option scholarship choice. It doesn't hurt to apply to 2. Again, if you think that your application and your overall profile is eligible for both of those categories. Sometimes they're not, and sometimes they are. But I think that to answer the question about the scholarship, looking at the test results or the academic results, this is always reviewed on a holistic approach. So we're not specifically just looking at their GMAT results or their GPA. We're always reviewing the applicant's overall profile to see if they best fit that scholarship category.
If you have any questions, just get in touch with your teams, right? Because
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, you guys, you're trying to make this as seamless and as easy for the applicants as possible, so they can get the most financial reward if possible. So I think
we want to help them, and that's
very clear. Very clear.
That is what we're here for.
Yes.
Often I have students that message me and go, oh, I'm really sorry to keep messaging you. I was like, no, this is what I'm here to do. If you want to call me, if you want to get onto like a Zoom call, we can do that. It doesn't matter. Some students, because I know we deal with different time zones. So I'm often having consultations late in the evening or early hours of the morning. So I'm always there to help students through that process. I mean, that is primarily what I'm here to do.
So now that we've walked through your requirements and kind of each part of the application process, I'd just like to take like a step back and then ask you both, what gets you super excited to meet an applicant? Yeah, let's start there.
I mean, I would say personally, I feel like I'm part of each student's individual journey. And it's great. I think from whether I'm meeting a student for the first time at one of the international recruitment fairs or speaking to them in a consultation or that first touch point on an online info session, all the way through to actually welcoming them to campus in September and being with them over the weekend when we have our team building leadership camp and really breaking the ice and getting to meet each of the students as a big cohort. I mean, I'm super excited about that. I love the fact that our cohorts are deliberately not huge cohorts. And it's because we then get to know each individual student. Some of the students I meet, I know that they've got families. I've met their children. I've actually been to sort of events where I've gotten to meet the families. You feel like you're really integrated into their family lives as well. And it's fantastic to see them from the start all the way through to when they graduate. And I feel like we've added a little bit to that journey, to their success. So that whole process, I'm really excited to be a part of.
And I would say what gets me most excited is once I send them the contract and I'm really the first person that they hear from that they've been admitted to the MBA program. I love giving them that news because everyone remembers when they received their admissions letter for their undergrad, right? Like it's the best feeling ever. So even just that I have a part in that moment for me, it doesn't feel any better than when I get these messages from students thanking them and then being able to guide them through setting them up with the accommodations team and then getting them all the way here to Germany and hearing like in between them receiving the contract and then them landing in Frankfurt and meeting them on opening day. I think for me, that's the most exciting part is meeting them in person for the first time because it's almost this surreal journey where we've just been talking online for months and doing all of the documents, but then saying, welcome to Germany and welcome to your MBA program. It's really exciting to see them in person and guiding them from that moment on. You know, it's a quick 3 to 4 month to 6 month journey, but it's very exciting to see them get set up and like integrate into the country.
I realized I might have skipped over a few parts of the application, so I'm actually going to reverse course and go back. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the recommendations and what makes for a really useful and effective recommendation that helps your team understand someone's work performance or the impact they've made at their organization. And also, I just want to make it clear that you can find the actual recommendation form for the Frankfurt School MBA on their website. So you can see those questions. But I'm wondering from your perspective, if there's anything that you could share.
So we do, of course, require the 2 recommendation letters, as mentioned before, but what we're really looking for are professional recommendation letters. I think this word professional is very important because sometimes we tend to see that students are using maybe some non-professional recommendation letters, but it needs to be either a current manager or HR that's really assessing their performance in the workplace. So how their current work performance will be able to tie to an MBA. Also, you could have a professional recommendation letter from one of your professors during your universities as well, from an academic side, which I think sometimes students don't think about asking one of their professors from their undergrad. But this can be really interesting from an academic perspective because they're using this to apply for an MBA as well. So what did they learn during their undergraduate that they could apply to the MBA? And then also these recommendation letters are really from mentors that have guided them through the beginning of their professional journey.
I think it's really key that students understand that you can get that academic recommendation because, again, some students say to me, I've only been in one job. How do I get a second? Do I get 2 from the same organization? And then when I mention actually you can have an academic recommendation, then they're much more relieved that, okay, I can find a way of getting 2 letters of recommendation.
And I think that a lot of these students do have one of those first-time mentors as a professor, right? Like we all had this one professor that we would go to for everything that helped us and guided us through our bachelor's. So definitely it's important for students to know about that.
And what about the case study essay? I'd love to hear, what you're looking for there.
I think with the case study, it's difficult for us to go into too much detail on it simply because each year our case studies change. What we can say to you is that the case studies are usually current case studies. So it might be something that is from a newspaper, maybe from something like the Financial Times, for example. It could be a particular article that a student then has to read and then maybe answer certain questions on. But as you said, each year it changes as part of the application process.
Okay, but is it part of is it like a timed exercise or the applicants have all the time they need? They just see what the case is and can respond?
So for the case study, the students can actually read the case study in the application. And this is going to be, as Anne-Marie mentioned, a pre-selected article. Typically it's from Financial Times, but this changes for every year's intake. We select a new case study. They read the article, and then there's a few key questions on their document that they need to fill in before submitting. So it's typically a 500-word case study essay that they'll have to answer. Maximum 500 words.
Maximum.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, to me, it sounds kind of like a proxy for the type of work they'll be doing in the MBA. And is that kind of how you're using it?
Exactly. It's kind of their first assignment or homework, essentially.
Yeah.
And then it's a way for us to really assess their skills. Yeah.
Because a lot of the curriculum really is case study based. Yes, there is some theory that is brought into the curriculum, but mainly it's looking at current cases. So this is as you said, a great insight for students that are looking to embark on the MBA, going through this case study themselves as part of the application process. I think gives them a little bit of insights into what they might expect to be doing when they do start the MBA program.
Another question I have is in terms of an applicant's reasons for wanting to come to the Frankfurt School, wanting to potentially work in Germany, wanting to get the MBA with you, how clear do they need to be with their sort of career goals coming into the program?
I think I've come across one extreme to the other. I've come across students that have basically said, I want to do an MBA. I'm not sure where I want to do an MBA. I'm not sure whether it's right now I want to do an MBA, but I feel like I should do an MBA because it's going to help my career.
Mhm.
Those are interesting conversations because I like to dissect that a little bit and take a step back and look at, okay, what's your current role? How are you feeling in your role? I guess you feel a little bit like it's a little bit like a therapy session because you really want to dig a little bit deeper into the reasons why they want to do
Yes.
an MBA. Is it because they feel that they should, or is it really because they really want to do it, but they haven't quite sort of gotten to grips in terms of where they want to go with their career? So I think it's really important for them to establish that first. And I normally recommend students that are in that situation to really take the time first and maybe take a step back and really come to a conclusion themselves as to the reasons why they want to do an MBA before applying for any MBA, because it is a lot of time, a lot of commitment, both financially and also, to go through 12 months, 18 months, whichever program that you're doing. I mean, with us, it's a 12 months program. It's intense. That first 6 months, you are on campus pretty much like a standard job, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you're on campus and you're working in a team. Your group is dependent on you as well. So you really need to be wanting to do this for the right reasons. And then I have other students that come to me and say, look, I have been working in my organization for X amount of years. I'm looking for other jobs, but I feel like I've got this technical knowledge. I've done my degree. Some of them have done their masters, but it's been very much technical based. And they feel like, okay, I've hit that ceiling. I want to be promoted. I want to get to that next position, but I feel like my qualifications is stopping me. And I feel like by having an MBA, I kind of can break down that ceiling that has been created and really have this opportunity to expand myself. So, as I said, so we have one extreme to the other. We can support students regardless of where they fall on, I guess, on that line. But I think those students that are still trying to work out their reasons, that I really will recommend that they have those consultations with me and really do the research themselves and really think about, whether an MBA is right for them.
Yeah, Colleen, anything else to add there? Like, how clear do you think applicants need to be with their career goals?
So I definitely think they need to have some sense of an idea of what they want to graduate and start their career post MBA with, because this gives us a way, especially with the career services during this admissions process, to see what their plans are post MBA graduation. Do they plan to stay in Germany? This is going to help them also just to know if, tying back to what Anne-Marie said, do they want an MBA? It's going to help them decide, is the MBA a right program for me? So I think they need to have some sense of a career trajectory, but it doesn't have to be 100% set in stone what they're going to do, because we do offer multiple different studies throughout the MBA. So we have an entrepreneurship section, a financial section, and this can change throughout their journey. So I think as long as they see where their goal is in the end, but it doesn't have to be 100% set in stone before they submit that application.
I've had conversations with students that have done the program and they've said, I want to go into finance. And all the way through, from the day one consultation all the way through, finance is where I want to go. And right at the very end, when they've graduated and been like, yes, this was a fantastic journey, I'm now going to be an entrepreneur. And they've completely changed their direction. And that's great, because the MBA opens those doors and gives them the opportunity to have a look at what options they have and where they can expand their knowledge. And it might be an area that they've never considered before. So with that particular student that had always thought about finance, they'd studied finance in their bachelor's degree. They've done finance for their master's. So for them, they always thought finance is the route that they will go down for forevermore. But the MBA kind of gave them those insights into other areas and actually made them think, actually, I would like to explore a different avenue. So that's why you don't have to be so set in stone in terms of where you want to go. We have a fantastic careers department. And the great thing about the full-time MBA program is that careers is very much embedded into the curriculum. And so students from day one will have those one-to-one coach sessions and sessions with careers to help them really decide where it is that they do want to go. I think for me, when I'm speaking to students, the most important thing is coming back to that point of, is an MBA right for me? And do I want to do an MBA? The part of where I want to go in terms of my career could potentially change. So I'm less worried about that part, but I'm more wanting to make sure that those students that are looking to do an MBA will actually understand the work that's involved in completing an MBA and that commitment that you really need to make that MBA successful for you.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. So, what I'm hearing is there needs to be clear motivation because this is a costly degree. It's a rewarding degree, but a costly degree. And also a sense of direction, but also having some flexibility along the way to be open to new ideas and new paths. My last question for you is just, do you have any last tips for applicants on how they can submit a winning application to the Frankfurt School?
I would say from my side, really be yourself in your application because we are reading applications day in and day out. And we can see if an applicant is really specifically tailored to Frankfurt School and showcasing their professional and academic background and applying it to our specific MBA program at Frankfurt School. Sometimes we see motivational letters or case studies that don't have a 100% effort behind those, and just be authentic in your application. And again, just be truthful why you want to join. So I think that's going to really make you stand out from another applicant is be authentic, be yourself, and be truthful. And then, of course, read thoroughly through all the required documents so that you can have a smooth and efficient process in ideally receiving an admissions answer from us.
I couldn't agree more. Just to add to that, I would say, coming back to my point from our last question is really make sure that an MBA is right for you. Do your research. So understand the environment, the city that you're going to be a part of. Apply when you're convinced that it's the right place for your MBA. Read the curriculum itself, get a grips to what you're going to be studying. The full-time MBA, as I said, is really intensive. So we really want students on the program that are ready to embrace that. Read the application prep list, which Colleen had kind of mentioned. Understand exactly what you need when you're getting ready to apply for the program. Be aware of our early bird discounts. We have some great discounts that will off of your tuition. And so the earlier that you apply, the better opportunities you have for that. And that's also the same with the scholarships. The earlier you apply, the better opportunities you have to be able to be awarded a scholarship, and also the amount, because we don't have set amounts that we offer students. Again, it's an holistic approach. We're looking at the overall application, and that will help us also to determine what we're offering our students in terms of scholarships as well. Give yourself the time that you need. Many students I found have waited last minute and rushed through that case study or rushed through that motivational essay. And it's such a shame because those motivational essays are the first point of insight into you as a candidate, as a potential candidate for the MBA program. And as Colleen said, that authenticity, we want to see that. And we want to see how motivated that candidate is. So if you're rushing through those really important opportunities to shine, it's going to be a shame for you because, that might hinder your opportunity to actually join the MBA program. So I definitely say give yourself that time. And again, a little bit kind of following on to Colleen's point, be yourself. Your personality, your insights, your experiences, they bring different flavors to the classroom, and we embrace that. So our full-time MBA is not just about what you learn from the professors, but it's also about what you learn from each other. So having that diversity is so important, and we really want to get an understanding of your personality and who you are.
So I have one follow-up question on this idea of authenticity. This is what you really want to see. I think that might be tied to one's motivation for pursuing the MBA, right? But I'd also love to hear maybe some tips on how to be authentic, because I'm guessing some of the applicants might be a little shy to share certain personal or professional experiences, perhaps, or their motivations. Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear any other ideas or examples that could help, someone be more authentic.
I would say there's no clear, definitive kind of this is what you need to do to be more authentic. What I would say is that I have once read an application of a person that talked about a little bit of their story as to why an MBA. They started thinking about an MBA. So they were working for a company for a number of years, and they felt that they were continuously overlooked for promotions. And really, they felt like they could add a lot of value to the company. But because of not having that MBA and that additional experience, they felt a little bit trapped. And they talked about sort of their thought process and how they came to sort of then realizing that maybe an MBA could really be that key to help them to come with, I guess, the tools to really help them to have those discussions with their employer, because they weren't looking to leave. They really enjoyed the company that they worked within, but they just felt that they were just slightly overlooked because they were, again, quite a technical individual. Mm-hmm. And the roles in which they were looking to go up into were more generalists and more sort of looking more at the business parts and aspects of the company. And so they felt in order for them to get to that, they needed this extra tool. So they had actually started looking at short courses, what other courses they could really embark on to help them with that. And that's where they came to the understanding that an MBA would be the best for them. So I think that, they told their story as to why they decided that an MBA worked for them. I thought it was very authentic. It really captured exactly their sort of thought process and their reasoning behind that. And it was very authentic on how it came across.
Thanks for sharing that example. I think that's a great example for our audience. And Colleen, any last tips there?
I think sometimes just explaining your personal journey, and don't be scared to also explain sometimes your failures as well, professionally, academically, whatever. Sometimes our failures are the reasons that we have these big changes in life, or could be a wake-up call for why they would like to do an MBA. So I think those are sometimes, in my opinion, when I'm reading the motivational essays, more authentic than hearing all about the great reasons why you're this perfect candidate. Is, just being human and real and explaining, failures and, of course, accomplishments, both sides.
So true. In interviews as well, I think this also should be taken into interviews. I think a lot of students feel that they need to come across as they've done these, they've been involved in multinational bids for whatever, and that in order for them to get onto the program, they have to show this vast sort of success of what they've achieved. And that isn't always the case. That's not what attracts us to an individual. So coming back to that authentic, you don't need to, and what Colleen said, talking about your failures as well can be just as helpful and as your achievements.
And we're all human, and that's, a big part of failures succeeding. We just want to see that reflected in the application, and just be yourself, really.
Yeah. So great tips. I think this is a great place to end our conversation. So thank you, Colleen, and thank you, Anne-Marie, for so openly and graciously, sharing all the experience you have with us to make this process easier. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Remember, you can get free school selection help and a profile review at touchmba.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Just search for Touch MBA.